All right, everybody, we are live. I am going to get this all set up the best I can while I wait for people to come in. Welcome to the grades 1 and 2 wastewater exam prep. I am using multiple screens here so I can actually see the chat box. I can monitor the stream, make sure everything's going good. There it is. So it looks like stream health is excellent. Nobody's watching quite yet, but that's fine. Click on this, and then we'll get into the introduction. Something I noticed while I was putting this all together, I did one last dry run. In order to be able to use my pen pad, if you've seen any of my videos, you'll see that I do math using this pad. I'll project it on the screen. I'm actually going to have to use my extended screen. I don't know why that is, but it's fine. We'll navigate it. So you'll see me popping in and out of the presentation. So let me just go ahead and share the screen here and show you my introduction. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do a brief intro. If you come in, go ahead and pop a hi in the chat or a question. I'll be monitoring the chat throughout the live stream. So this is 2 hours long for wastewater treatment exam prep. I'm super excited to do this. I've been really looking forward to this. I'll explain a little bit about myself here in a second if you're new to the channel, and then we're going to get into some ground rules about like what to expect from this training, and then we're going to get into it. We're going to do true, false, multiple choice, and math. And so I'm going to be giving you test examples, like exam questions, all right? Not literal exam questions, but examples of like a practice test. And then throughout this, if you're confused on anything, you can always ask me a question in the chat box. And like I said, I'm going to have to bounce in and out of this presentation because now that I have it in screen slideshow, I can't see my chat box anymore on this other screen. And it's the only way, and to demonstrate what I'm talking about, it's my only way, sorry, I have to select it. So this will be a little clunky, growing pains of doing this for the first time, to do stuff like this, like circle, okay? Things like that. All right, I'm gonna write out math problems and things. So a little bit about myself. My name is Shawn Powell. I am a chief plant operator. I'm currently a grade 4 California wastewater operator. I just passed my grade 5 about a month ago, and that application actually went in the mail for certification yesterday. So I'm excited to get that paper in hand. I have passed the grades 1 through 5 wastewater treatment plant operator exam, and I've done them all on try 1, my very first try. And it's not being braggartly that I say that. I say that because I know how these tests tick, and that's a whole reason I actually started this channel, is to help people pass their tests and maybe also understand process a little bit better in the plant. I'm also a grade D3 and T2 operator, distribution and treatment. Distribution is the drinking water pipes out in the system, and the treatment is the drinking water treatment plant. I've passed the D2, D3, T2, and T3 tests. I don't hold the T3 yet. It's going to probably be a while because I mostly do wastewater, and I just don't work in a facility that has a ton of complicated drinking water treatment processes. So it's just, that's a slow slog. I'm several hundred hours short of the requirements to get the T3. Anyway, that's a little bit about me. And you know, when I started this channel about a year ago, almost a year ago in January, and I've got over 100 videos now on all sorts of treatment processes, math videos, things like that. And then I did this whole series where I kind of pound the table on what I think it takes to pass your wastewater treatment plant operator exam. And I thought it'd be really cool to do a series on me going for my grade 5, deciding to take it, and then going and, you know, all my study material and all this stuff and going through it. And it was a little bit, admittedly, of a flex that I did that on the channel in real time. There was no guarantee I was going to pass it, but I believe in my strategies, and I did pass. And so coming out of that, I was like, all right, I think I got the street cred to go ahead and do a live stream exam prep, which is a little bit of a stretch for me, but I think we'll be fine. So I'm going to escape actually out of my slideshow real quick so that I can see if anybody is in the chat. In slideshow, discard. Let's see, I've got a few people in here. I got Howdy, how's it going? Psycho Mustard, Iving, Psycho Mustard, D Blue, yo, thanks for doing this. I got my C license test soon, which is grade 2, I think, outside of Texas. Cool, all right, great. I'm super happy to have you all here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my slideshow again, so I will not be able to see your chat. I will pop in and out. So now we're going to do some ground rules, disclaimers, and recommendations. Tests rotate. There's never a guarantee of what you'll be asked, okay? So I've had it, just a former supervisor just the other day told me he was gonna potentially go and take his grade 4 just to see what was on it, and I told him, even at his level, I told him, hey man, don't do that. They rotate the tests. Like, it's not a good idea. So what we're going over today, I can't guarantee you're going to be asked exactly these questions. These are just sample ideas of what you might be asked, okay? States differ on the regulations and difficulty levels. So California grade 2 might not be level 2 Oklahoma, for instance. And just like that one person just said, D Blue just said, you know, I think it's a grade 2 level. Yeah, it's kind of a hard way between the states to actually parse out what is a level 2 and level 3. So make sure you're looking at your local need to know criteria. The websites of all these states tell you what you're supposed to study. Some of them are more vague than others, but still, it'll point you in the right direction. So today, if you are fuzzy on any topic discussed, study it thoroughly. Practice tests are to give you an idea of what will be asked. So I think a lot of people fall into the trap of when we do these practice sessions and things like that, where they will practice that particular question until they've memorized it, and that's all they do. What I suggest you do is, if you're actually getting some of these questions wrong, mark them down and then go study that topic. Not just this one particular question, if that makes any sense. Pull the thread on the quilt, ask why is it like that? And then, you know, commit some time to actually studying that topic. Get a study plan and stick to it, 30 minutes to an hour per day, and start as soon as possible for your exam. Just talk to a guy, I don't know if he's gonna be on this stream or not. He's a recruiter out of New Jersey. His name's Anthony, great guy. He told me that what they've seen in New Jersey is a minimum of 12 weeks before the test is you get the best results. And I can speak to that because I typically start studying about 6 months. Now, I've got a lot of luxury in that timing. I project out in the future. If you are less than 12 weeks to your exam, don't panic. You still have time to get ready, but if you aren't running up on an exam date quite yet, my suggestion is to just start as far in advance as possible. Don't just start studying 3 weeks ahead of time. You're setting yourself up for failure. And then dedicate 30 minutes to an hour per day, especially on things that you're not familiar with. Exam information and tips. Be sure to read the questions carefully and be mindful of how many tanks, aeration basins, digesters they are asking for. This is particularly on the math. So what they'll do is they'll do this thing right here. I'll see if I can write it on my tablet here. Still some growing pains. I have to select pin. Give me a second. All right. So what they'll do is they'll write TWO. There are 2 aeration basins, not 2 like that, okay? And so when they do that, what's going on there is they are making sure that you're paying attention, I guess, for lack of a better term. They're seeing if you're actually focusing on what they're saying with respect to what am I trying to say here? Just slow down, because what we're trained to do is pull these numbers out, the symbol of the number, and they'll sneak in the word written out, 2 aeration basins, and you'll get the question wrong. And I guarantee you the wrong answer will be one of the options that you can select. Drawing pictures is recommended if you are having trouble visualizing what they're asking for. What this means is if you're doing a brake horsepower, which we're not going over today, that's more of a grade 3 thing. I don't think I've ever seen a horsepower on an early level, but just a great example is if they're talking about brake horsepower, that's the horsepower that the motor shaft is delivering to the pump. But if you're getting confused with water horsepower versus brake horsepower, it's good to draw an actual picture of the pump, and you can kind of, visualize, that's what they're saying, that kind of stuff. Pull all relevant information out of the math problem and write it out. So like I like to make a list of the things that they're looking for, and then just go ahead and start solving the problem that way, rather than trying to you'll randomly pull numbers out as I do the math problem. They tend to bring the hardest questions out first. They bring the big bats out. They are coming at you, and I do believe there is a testing theory behind knocking you on your heels right away. It didn't actually happen to me on my 5, but on my 1 through 4, I felt like it did. The very first couple questions were like the hardest, and I don't know if that's because I get test anxiety and I was like kind of overthinking things, but my suggestion is if you find yourself in that situation, just discount it, move on. Don't get hung up on it, just move. And that gets me to my next point. If you get stuck, bookmark it, move on. A question later in the test might give you a hint or even answer the question you are stuck on. This 100% happened to me on my grade 5. It has happened to me on every exam. And I can't talk specifics, but there was a certain one I was kind of ho-humming on my 5, and it could be that, I don't know. And then I moved on to I just bookmarked it and moved on. went to another question, and that same answer was a wrong answer option on this other question, which I thought was strange. And so I was like, oh, they're only 2 or 3 questions apart. That's weird. And then I moved on later into the exam, and literally the answer to the question that I was mulling over at first was written out in another question. So this is a very common thing. So this is why you don't want to waste time while you're doing your exam, looking at something that might be making your wheels spin. Move. You might get the answer. Actually, the test makers might accidentally give it to you. Okay. After this, we're going to move into a true-false segment. I've got a couple more tips for you, and then I'm going to check the chat box, then we get into true-false. I suggest moving through the entire test one time, answering all easy questions, then going back through to answer the hard ones. Your goal is to pass with at least 70%, not get every single answer right. So this is another thing about not getting stuck. I did a whole video on this, by the way, but if you haven't seen it, this is kind of the vibe. Bookend to bookend, start from question 1, go to question whatever it is, 170, I don't know, every state's different. And what you do is you just get the low-hanging fruit, score a bunch of points, as many points as you can. And you know, the first time I moved through my grade 5, which is a 70-question, very difficult test, I moved through it and answered, I don't know, 60% of the questions in 30 minutes. And it's a 4-hour test. So I had 3.5 hours to now mull over the ones that were a little harder. So that's it's my way I do things, and it does work. But again, I'll always default to do what's comfortable for you. That's just my suggestion. Don't waste time on long math problems, which might prevent you from answering easy questions. Kind of the same energy there. Just keep moving, gather as many points as possible. If you don't know a math problem, start working it out. You may just jog your memory. Another thing to mention about California, and every state's got their own weird things they do. In California, it does not matter if you get 100% of the conceptual right. If you do not pass 50% of the math, you fail. So you have to get at least a 70 and at least 50% of the math. Okay, so if you get a 90%, or that's actually mathematically not possible. If you get a 80% total, but you missed over half of the math, you fail. So that's where the math problems, you do not leave those blank. You absolutely work. You never leave any question blank, but you absolutely got to make sure you work those math problems out if you're running the clock. And then lastly, take your time and relax. Don't rush and read every question carefully. You are allotted plenty of time to do these tests. Okay, so I'm going to pop out of my slideshow real quick, and I want to see the chat and see if I can talk to you guys. Where's my pointer? There it is. Sorry, I'm getting used to this extended screen thing. Oh wow, lots of stuff. What up, Estrada 9006? Made it, Rooted made it. Chief Squeezy Pop, all right. Squeezy Poop, love it. Thank you, Sago Mustard, thank you for all you do. You know, appreciate it. Preparing for the grade 1 California Sierra Astrology, awesome. Oh wow, thanks for whoever just did that. I did enable super chats because I was able to turn ads off for this. There will be ads on the replay, but I didn't want them to interrupt what we're doing. So boy, that's a real, thank you so much. I've never gotten one of those before. I appreciate that, Chief Squeezy Poop. Rooted, thanks, Shawn. Absolutely. Just started classes this term. Awesome. Got my grade 1 exam next Friday in California. Going to use this to prepare further. Great. And then Vincent says, grade 3 operator going for 5. Did you pass, bro? I absolutely passed. First shot. And I'm going to be, Vincent, I'm doing a grade 3, well, you're already a grade 3, but I'm doing a grade 3 prep in early December. It was going to be late November, but holidays. I forgot about Thanksgiving. As an operator, I actually don't think much about the holidays because we work all the time. And then I'm going to do a grade 3 in early December, and then a grades 4 and 5 early January. Same reason, holidays. So Vincent, if you're going for your 5, I highly recommend you join my live stream. I'm right out of it, out of the 5. I took the 4 like 2 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. They were very similar in difficulty, and you're absolutely right to jump to the 5. Okay, so let's get back into the slideshow. I'm going to go back to where I cannot see you guys, but that's fine. We'll come in and out of this. I'll be there. Great. All right, so how this is going to work, I cannot see the chat. So while I have the screen slideshow up. So we're going to go through some true-false. If you want to put the true-false in the chat box, you guys can chat amongst yourselves while I'm doing this when I can't see it, by all means. And what I'm going to do is every few questions I'll pop out of the slideshow so I can look and see if there's any questions. I don't want to leave anybody behind. If Please though put the number of the question you're asking about so that I can have a reference of what you're saying. So if you put something like, I don't understand, or can you explain that further, I'm not gonna know what you're talking about. There is also a lag on this, by the way, about 8 to 10 second lag between when I say something and when you hear it. So that's just another reason. Put the number you're talking about. So let's get started here. True, false. True, false. MLVSS is an abbreviation for all of the solids in the aeration basin. Think about that for a second. And those of you on the replay, feel free to pause because you don't have to listen to me go on and on. People watching the replay have an opportunity to pause it. You guys don't, so I'm going to give you a little time. MLVSS is abbreviation for all solids in aeration basin. This is false. MLSS is an abbreviation for all the solids in the aeration basin. MLVSS is volatile suspended solids, not all suspended solids, okay? MLVSS is volatile suspended solids, which is a direct biomass measurement. MLSS is everything, okay? So this would be false. Number 2, sloughing refers to a natural process in which a trickling filter sheds excess zooglial film. Give you a couple seconds to mull that one over, true or false. So I'm gonna get my pen here. This one is true. Sloughing. You should know about sloughing. It's just a natural thing that happens. Something I want to elaborate on in this. When you have sloughings that come off a trickling filter, if you're asked about the requirement of secondary clarification after, or secondary sedimentation after a trickling filter, it is absolutely necessary. These sloughings are heavy in TSS and BOD. You need to let those settle out. If you don't, you're going to send a bunch of BOD out into the environment. You don't want to do that. So this is true, and just know that you need to settle it out. It is heavy BOD TSS load. 3, algae growth on an RBC is desirable due to the dissolved oxygen it provides. True or false? And after I reveal the answer to this one, I'll pop out to the chat and see if there's any questions. This one is false. Algae is good in ponds, as is desirable in ponds for dissolved oxygen, but absolutely not on an RBC. It interferes with the zooglial film. You only have so much surface area on an RBC. You don't want a bunch of algae growing on there because algae doesn't treat wastewater. Zooglial film does. RBCs get their dissolved oxygen through rotating in the atmosphere on a rotation. It's like a big disc, like a drum that comes up into the atmosphere. The zooglial film can breathe, and then it dips back down into the water. About 40% of it is submerged, 60% of it is above water, okay? You do not want algae on your RBC. As a matter of fact, a lot of RBCs are covered because of this. So let me pop out of the slideshow real quick and see if I can see if there's any questions. Discard, I don't want any of that. Let's see here, no questions, great. Unless I've stopped streaming for some reason. Let's see here. Make sure that my stream health looks good. Looks good to me. Alrighty. Back to the slideshow. Recirculation flow in MGD is used in the organic loading calculation for a trickling filter. True or false? Activate my pen while you think for a second. This is false. Recirculation is used in the hydraulic loading calculation. You do not use recirculation flow in the organic loading. The BOD has already been counted. Hydraulic loading and organic loading are two different things. So, and we're going to do this math problem later in this live stream. Okay, I've got one up on the up for you. Organic loading, and we're going to do a hydraulic loading. I'll kind of hit on this again. But you do not use the recirculation flow. They might give it to you. Do not use it. Primary clarifiers are always necessary prior to secondary treatment. True or false? Give you a second to think about it. False. I've mentioned this in one of my videos once. The always never trap. Watch out for that word. Oftentimes, if you've got like a multiple choice you're coming up against and you see always in there, you can almost always discounted as a trick or a trap of some kind. Very rarely is anything always something. Like it's, free chlorine's always better than chloramines. No, it's not. It depends on the context. Free chlorine is more powerful and is faster at deactivating coliform, but it's not, or killing coliform or whatever you're trying to do, but it doesn't mean it's better, okay? So just, there's some considerations there. So primary clarifiers are not always necessary. I've worked in several plants that go right from screening right into aeration, okay? I'll do one more true false and then we'll go to the chat and see if there's anything going on there. Hydrogen sulfide gathers in low-lying areas. Hydrogen sulfide gas gathers in low-lying areas. True or false? This is true. Hydrogen sulfide is heavier than air, okay? When you see people going and doing confined space entries into lift stations and whatnot, they'll be wearing gas monitors. And, we did a entry here at the plant, it's actually a couple years ago. And we had to actually remove the person out because as he was going lower and lower, the hydrogen sulfide was going higher and higher, and he was only halfway down with his harness, and we were lowering him down and all that. He was only about halfway down before it started ringing at him and told him, you got to get out. We were ventilating and everything. So let me pop out of here and see if there's any questions. And if there's not, we'll just keep moving. It's like chlorine being heavier than air. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Chlorine is heavier than air. And then just check on this real quick. Looking good. All right, back to it. And that's a great observation that Mel made. Chlorine gas, I didn't put it in this one, but if you are asked about chlorine gas, it is 2.5 times heavier than air. They like to say that. They like to get the 2.5 times out, written out. Number 7, all wastewater treatment plants are regulated by NPDES permits. True or false? Give you a second to mull that one over. All wastewater treatment plants are regulated by NPDES permits is, oops, God, I got to get used to this new setup. By the way, if you're just joining, I realized I had to project my screen on my other screen. It's weird. I'm in real time getting comfortable with this setup that I just discovered 10 minutes before the live stream. This is false. Let's go back to that always never trap. All wastewater, be very wary of these. Only plants that discharge to waters of the US are regulated by NPDES permits. I've worked at several plants that do not go there, and we operated under what was called a WDR, a waste discharge requirement. NPDES is more of a federal thing, so know that. Number 8, trickling filters are a form of attached growth media. This is true. Attached growth. Suspended growth media would be activated sludge. Trickling filters have biofilm that grows on the media. So something to be aware of if you're asked about it. Number 9, chlorine approved for wastewater treatment can come in gas, liquid, or solid form. True or false? Chlorine approved for wastewater treatment can come in gas, liquid, or solid form. And this is true. Chlorine gas, sodium hypochlorite is bleach. And by the way, just an operational nitpick that I like to say, I have a lot of colleagues that just say bleach. They don't say sodium hypochlorite. Just so you know, hydrogen peroxide is a bleach too. So I like to get a little bit more specific. Sodium hypochlorite is a form of bleach, yes, and it may be synonymously referred to as that on your test. And the concentrations you're going to find in a wastewater plant are anywhere from 5 to 15%. I use 12.5% sodium hypochlorite here. And then solid form is calcium hypochlorite or high test hypochlorite. You'll see them actually abbreviate it like this, HTH. Boy, this is going to take some getting used to with this pad over there. HTH, high test hypochlorite. So this is true. Number 10, the purpose of grit removal is to preserve downstream treatment process capacity, shorten the lifespan of equipment, and protect valves and pumps. True or false? The purpose of grit removal is to preserve downstream treatment process capacity, shorten the lifespan of equipment, and protect valves and pumps. This is false, and they will write tricky things like this at you. If you got tricked by it, I wrote shorten the life. It's extend the lifespan. Grit removal extends the lifespan of equipment. It does not shorten the lifespan of it. So this statement is mostly true. It does preserve downstream treatment process capacity. It does protect valves and pumps, but it most certainly does not shorten the lifespan of equipment. I put this one in here to show you that they will do this. And so just read carefully, and if there is any statement in a true false that is not correct, the whole statement is false. Okay? Let's move on to the next one, then I'll check the chat box. Number 11, dissolved oxygen can be supplied to a wastewater pond by wind, algae, surface aerators, and centrifugal blowers. True or false? Dissolved oxygen can be supplied to a wastewater pond by wind, algae, surface aerators, and centrifugal blowers. This is true. Depends on your, I've never seen centrifugal blowers used on a facultative pond, but I certainly have seen them. I worked at a plant, not at the plant, I worked in a city that had a plant that used centrifugal blowers on their aerobic ponds. So notice I didn't say facultative ponds, I said wastewater pond. Maybe you could do a centrifugal blower in a facultative pond. I don't know what that would look like. I have worked at a pond physically as a shift operator where we had surface aerators on a facultative pond because we were aerating the top layer, which was aerobic. Wind, another thing that they might ask you about that could create dissolved oxygen is wildlife. Oh, ducks, flying into the pond and waddling around. They'll mix up the top layer. Something else to be aware of. So let me pop out of here in the show and see if I've got any questions. Let me see here. Questions, dude. Operator Mindset. Hey, Matt's on. If you haven't seen Matt, sorry, you took me by surprise, Matt. If you haven't seen Matt's channel yet, you should. Actually, this is really serendipitous. Matt, we are always on the same wavelength, are we not, my friend? Because I just did a pond question, and you've done such a wonderful job doing a pond video. I don't feel like I have to do one anytime soon. So if you've not seen Matt's pond video, it was so good. I learned a couple things off of that one. So yeah, hey Matt, how you doing? Let's see. Yeah, everybody's celebrating. Everybody's seeing Matt's praises in the chat box. Awesome. Okay, let's get back to it. True or false? Without dissolved oxygen, an anaerobic process doesn't function properly. True or false? Without dissolved oxygen, an anaerobic process does not function properly. This is me getting used to my stinking pad again. Sorry guys, I'll get it probably by the end of the thing. This is false. This is a double negative. Get ready for these. They are written really tricky. So if you take the double negative out and read it differently, you would say with dissolved oxygen, an anaerobic process functions properly. So that's pretty much what this statement says. Anaerobic processes are without oxygen, okay? That's it. That's all I got for you. So yeah, anaerobic is without oxygen. Aerobic needs dissolved oxygen. So this would be false. Be ready for double negatives and slow down on them because they trip me up big time when I run into them. 13, primary treatment is primarily a physical process and never involves the use of chemicals. True or false? Primary treatment is primarily a physical process and never involves the use of chemicals. This is false. Always, never trap. Watch out for it. Right there. Chemically enhanced primary treatment is a thing. CEPT. Oh boy, this is out of my comfort zone. When I use my pad on my normal laptop setup, it's way faster. So you'll hear me kind of beat myself up on this. I was not ready for this today, so we'll all get through it together though. Chemically enhanced primary treatment uses chemicals, all right? So it absolutely can use the use of chemicals. Primary treatment is primarily a physical process. So this statement is half true, which means it's 100% false. Number 14, in preliminary treatment, screening typically happens before grit removal. True or false? In preliminary treatment, screening typically happens before grit removal. And this is true. Yeah, it's just the order of operations. Get the sticks and the frogs out first, and then slow it down, let the grit settle. Number 15, flow into a wastewater plant is typically slowed to 1 foot per second to allow grit to settle out, but keep organics in suspension. True or false? Flow into a wastewater plant is typically slowed to 1 foot per second to allow grit to settle out, but keep organics in suspension. This one is true. Yeah, that's about right. It can vary, but that's a good rule of thumb, 1 foot per second, and that's exactly why you do it. Let that heavy grit settle and keep those organics in suspension, because what happens with the grit is it goes to a certain place, but our job in the secondary process is to take care of those organics, okay? So we want those organics to stay in there. We don't want them to settle out, because the grit typically just goes to a landfill after some, polishing up and stuff, some wash down. And we're not trying to send organics to a landfill. We're trying to treat them. One more question, I'll check on the chat. Number 16, mean cell residence time is the theoretical time a microorganism spends in the secondary system. Mean cell residence time is the theoretical time a microorganism spends in the secondary system. True, that is true. And not all states use MCRT. Some states use what's called SRT, and I'm gonna get into the nuance. I have an MCRT math problem towards the end of this presentation. I did not do an SRT math problem, but I will tell you the difference when we get there. It's subtle, but it's good to know. So I'm gonna end the show. I'm gonna come and look at the chat box, see if there's anybody out there who's got a question. Can this live show be viewed on my own later? Oh yeah, of course, Mel. Yeah, the replay will be ready for everybody. So yep. Half of sewer flow. Christopher Lopez says half of sewer flow. What does that mean? I don't understand half of sewer flow. Are you talking about slowing it down into the grit chamber? And hey, Matt, since you're here, answer questions. You can, I'm not telling you what to do, but if you think you could be of help in the comment section, I'm over here yammering at the camera. By all means, help folks out. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Number 17. Well, this one's one of my favorites. When coliform bacteria is detected, it confirms the presence of pathogens in the wastewater. True or false? When coliform bacteria is detected, it confirms the presence of pathogens in the wastewater. This is false. Oh man, I did it again. False, but let me get back to pen mode. Why I'm struggling with this is I've used this pen and pad for a long time now, several months, and I don't ever have to switch to pen mode. This is the first time I've ever had to do this because of how my screens are set up for this live stream. So yeah, it's a little bit of a learning curve. This is false. It indicates the presence of pathogens. It does not confirm them. The reason we use the total coliform test is what we found is that and we being the scientific community, when pathogens are present, coliform is present as well. And so what coliform is really easy to test for. All the 11 billion varieties of nasty bugs and protozoa and cysts and viruses that'll kill us all are very hard to test for. But coliform's not. It's very easy to test for. So it's an indicator of a potential presence of pathogens. And just for a little bonus, on my grade 3, I had a true false, and it was something along the lines of this, but it was fecal bacteria and fecal coliform, and it was the same kind of structure. And I had to think about it for a second, and I was like, I think that's still an indicator, and it absolutely is still just an indicator. Fecal coliform does not confirm anything. It's just an indicator, okay? Next question. Blowers in an aeration basin are used to supply dissolved oxygen and keep the MLSS mixed. True or false? Blowers in an aeration basin are used to supply dissolved oxygen and keep the MLSS mixed. This is, where'd my pen go? Here it is. True. Yeah, it serves a dual function. It keeps a good mix, and that's exactly what it says. Okay, let's move on to multiple choice. That was a good little kind of an exercise to get you warmed up. True, false, at least in California, is always first. And it is a good warm-up to the next segment. So multiple choice. Which of the following options is not a standard phase of an SBR process? A, fill, B, react, C, settle, D, eject. Which of the following options is not a standard phase of the SBR process? A, B, C, or D, fill, react, settle, or eject? The correct answer, which is not a standard phase, is D, eject. It's decant. And I think there's a rest phase too. Actually, I was just conversing with an operator in Tennessee. We're going to do an SBR. We're going to do an SBR video hopefully soon. We're going to have a phone call about it next week. He works at a 1MGD SBR plant, so it'll be great to talk to him. Decant is when you get the clean water out, not eject. Eject has nothing to do with SBRs. 20. Which of the following is a characteristic of hydrogen sulfide, H2S? No, it's H2S, okay? Hydrogen sulfide and H2S are the same thing. They could couch it either way, write it out either way. A, smells like rotten eggs. B, dulls the sense of smell over time. C, is explosive. Or D, all of the above. Which one of those is a characteristic of hydrogen sulfide? And it's D, all of the above, right here. It does smell like rotten eggs. Here's something. If you ever walk into a place at a plant that smells like rotten eggs, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, a few minutes later, you need to get out and get an atmosphere monitor. You're probably in the midst of hydrogen sulfide. And it's very dangerous. It is absolutely explosive. And atmosphere monitors will catch that. There's upper and lower explosive limits, and it'll detect those as well. One more question. I'll go to the chat, see if anybody's got any questions for me. When working over a primary clarifier without railings, which of the following is required PPE? A, a PFD, B, a splash shield, C, a sludge judge, D, a Secchi disc. When working over a primary clarifier without railings, which of the following is required PPE? PFD, a splash shield, sludge judge, or Secchi disc. It is A, a PFD, also known as a personal flotation device or a life jacket. It's written like that. So, you're not supposed to talk specifics, but I want to say I remember getting this on my grade 1, and it was written like that. It wasn't personal flotation device because it kind of leads you in the right direction. PPE, by the way, know the definition of that. Personal protective equipment. You need to know what that means. A splash shield would not protect you from falling in. A sludge judge would not also. And a Secchi disc is used to judge turbidity. I have never seen a Secchi disc used in wastewater treatment, and I actually didn't see it. A buddy did. He's a contract operator, and he went to a local city to fill in some shifts, and they were using a Secchi disc in their secondary clarifier. Totally trippy. I haven't seen something like that since my oceanography class. All right, so let me pop out of here and see if there's any questions in the chat. Discard. Thanks, Matt. I got your thing there. Rooted says, oh, number 17 true. Oh, man. Indicator organisms, absolutely. Looks like people are answering. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, no questions? Let's keep plugging away. We're getting through this a lot faster than I thought. This is supposed to be 2 hours long, by the way. If for whatever reason we're not, we can ask some questions, or if we end up wrapping up early, that's fine. The math, I think, is going to take us a while, though. What does NPDES stand for? A, National Protection Dedication Enrichment System. B, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. C, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. D, Nationwide Pollution Discharge Elimination System. I'm not going to read all that again, but I like to put this one in because it's a common red herring that they do. And your answer is C, pollutant. God, I did it again. By the time this training is done, I will remember to activate the pin. Here we go. Before I start marking up my thing again. It's C, pollutant, not pollution. National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. Know that inside and out, okay? Which of the following is not an ideal parameter for active process control in an anaerobic digester? A, temperature, B, pH, C, alkalinity, D, volatile acid content. This is an anaerobic digester. which is not an ideal parameter for active process control. So this is going to be more of a grade 2 question, bordering on a grade 3 question. Okay, so you might see this on a 3. I had something similar to this on my 3, but it was asked in a different way. And the answer is B. pH is a lagging indicator. You don't focus on that. Your temperature is important. Know the temperature ranges. Psychrophilic, mesophilic, thermophilic. Study those and what their temperatures are. Alkalinity is important, and volatile acid content is, because you have the volatile acid alkalinity ratio you have to be watching. Okay, that's a very important parameter, and that starts going sideways on you before your pH does. Your pH, like I said, is a lagging indicator, and it is not an ideal parameter for active process control in an anaerobic digester. I love this question. At what time of day is a pond's dissolved oxygen at its highest? A, 3 a.m., B, 9 a.m., C, 3 p.m., D, 9 p.m. At what time of day is a pond's dissolved oxygen at its highest? So what we're doing here is we are tapping into you understanding a certain thing about ponds, and that they use algae for the most part. And you can have a lot of different ways you can dissolve oxygen, but algae's going to be your best one. And because of that, C, 3 p.m. is going to be your correct answer. Because photosynthesis has been going on all day, and the algae has been producing dissolved oxygen all day. Also, this is something to be aware of. When the dissolved oxygen in a plant goes up, what also goes up? The pH. At night, when the algae starts respirating, and the dissolved oxygen will drop because the algae is now creating CO2. The CO2 is acidic, the pH drops as well. Okay? So as the dissolved oxygen goes up, pH goes up, and as it drops, pH drops. You need to know about that. Number 25. This type of bacteria can survive in both aerobic and anaerobic conditions. I have a question mark there for some reason. Which type of bacteria? Facultative, anoxic, heterotrophic, or autotrophic? This type of bacteria can survive in both aerobic and anaerobic conditions. The correct answer is facultative. Okay, facultative. You can have facultative heterotrophs and facultative autotrophs, but facultative is the word that means it can move between an aerobic and an anaerobic condition. I'll do one more, and then I'll check on the chat box. Why is duckweed considered a nuisance in wastewater ponds? A, combined with algae, it provides too much dissolved oxygen. B, it's toxic to ducks and other wildlife. C, it blocks the sunlight from the pond, which interrupts algae's photosynthesis. D, both B and C. So the correct answer here is C. It blocks the sunlight. Ducks love this stuff. It's not toxic to ducks. This was a trick. This was a trap. They'll do this to you. Just I'm trying to emulate a test. They'll give you both B and C thing like this, and it's like, oh, well, it's probably both B and C if C is correct. No, this is absolutely not toxic to ducks. Combined with algae, it provides too much dissolved oxygen. No, it doesn't. It blocks the sunlight from the pond. We actually have video at the former pond I worked at. It would get completely covered with duckweed. And we'd wait and wait. We had surface aerators. It was okay. We'd wait and wait and wait until it was like at the very last moment. Like not the last moment, but it was right about to really affect our process, and we bring the Vactor truck out, and we would suck it off the top. We would just put and it would all just come over to the vacuum. It was a really easy job, actually, to just Vactor it off. So let me jump out of the chat, or the slideshow, and see if there's any questions. Give me a second. I'm going to remember to activate the pin this time. Okay, cool. You got a Secchi disc. So that's now 2 people that have a Secchi disc that I know. Let's see. I got to zoom in here. 23, going to guess C, B, 9 a.m., damn, oh darn. I had a question like this on my exam. Which one, like Carlton? Which one is it? 24 is a popular exam question. Oh, it definitely is. That's why I said it was one of my favorites, the pond thing. And if they ask you what time of day is the lowest, it would be, is dissolved oxygen at its lowest. And correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Matt, it probably would be 9 a.m. Actually, how they would write that one is this would probably be 6 a.m. because depending on where you are, it's pretty sunny out here by 9 a.m. So photosynthesis could have already started. So it would be pretty much, they might be dusk or dawn might be written as well. So at dawn, as the sun's getting ready to come up and upon the dissolved oxygen would be at its lowest. All right. So let's get back to it. Duckweed. Okay. I got a little funny one because I couldn't come up with a third wrong answer. What is the purpose of a thief hole? A hole built into the gate of a valve to prevent blockages is A. B, the hole in a diaphragm that allows atmospheric equalization. C, a location to sample sludge in an anaerobic digester. Or D, where we throw all the trespassers on plant grounds. And on that note, I tell my boss, hey, if somebody wants to hop the fence at the plant, that's on them. If they they would get more, they would probably get themselves hurt or killed. Jump the fence if you really want to. We don't throw trespassers in thief holes. No. The correct answer to this is C, a location. I did it again. I can't believe it. I'm gonna get there. Let me activate my pen. C, a location to sample sludge in an anaerobic digester is a thief hole. Okay, know that. Know all the hardware of an anaerobic digester. The drip trap, sediment trap, waste gas burner, just go through all of it. Pressure relief, vacuum relief, know all the little doodads that go on an anaerobic digester. Number 28, which of the following valves allows flow in only in one direction? A, a gate valve, B, a plug valve, C, a butterfly valve, D, a check valve. Which valve allows flow only in one direction? And that would be D, a check valve. Now, there's several different types of check valves. There's weighted springs, there's ball checks, there's swing checks. Mechanics out there, you need to know the different types of check valves for your mechanic technologist training with like CWE or whatever water association you have. But for what we do, we just need to know what a check valve is. And they're very important. It would be really tough to run a plant efficiently without those. Number 29, this is a favorite, okay? Because 2 of these valves can be used to throttle flow. But my question for you is, which of the following valves is best suited for throttling flow? A, a globe valve, B, a plug valve, C, a butterfly valve, D, a check valve. And this is a best answer situation. So if you run into one of these and you go, hey, wait a second, I use butterfly valves to throttle flow. So do I, but the correct answer is globe valve. It is the best. You can use globe valves for very minute throttling applications. This trips a lot of people up, especially people that work in plants, because I have several butterfly valves in my plant that are actuating butterfly valves that automatically throttle flow. I'll put something in SCADA and say I want it to run 30 GPM, or I want this to run 50 GPM, whatever, and it makes the change for me on the valve. It doesn't, but globe valve is actually the correct answer. A, not butterfly valve, if you run into this. 30, which term refers to the recirculation of sludge from the secondary clarifier back to the front of the aeration basin? A, WAS, B, RAS, C, F to M, D, MLSS. This is the recirculation of sludge from the secondary clarifier back to the front of the aeration basin. A, WAS, B, RAS, C, F to M, D, MLSS. And your answer is B, RAS, return activated sludge. So they'll do this too, where they'll put all these abbreviations, because if they ask you what refers to the recirculation and they actually wrote out return activated sludge, it'd be kind of obvious. WAS is waste activated sludge. F to M is food to microorganism ratio. MLSS is mixed liquor suspended solids. Okay, so this is a process control measurement. We're going to do that math in a little bit. This is just all the mixture that's in aeration. This is the waste, WAS, and your correct answer is RAS, return activated sludge. 31. Which test indicates how well your sludge settles relative to MLSS concentration? Which test indicates how well your sludge settles relative to MLSS concentration? A, MCRT, B, F to M, C, SVI, or D, sludge age? MCRT, F to M, SVI, or sludge age. And the correct answer is SVI, sludge volume index. And we're going to do that math problem. I think it's the very last math problem in this presentation. SVI. MCRT is mean cell residence time, totally different calculation. Food microorganism, B is totally different, and sludge age is similar to MCRT, but measuring a few different things, and yeah, different. SVI is what you're looking for. I'll do one more question, then pop over to the chat. Number 32, in an aeration basin, what consumes the incoming biochemical oxygen demand? A, the microbes, B, dissolved oxygen, C, the MLSS, or D, the COD? In an aeration basin, what consumes the incoming biochemical oxygen demand? A, the microbes, B, dissolved oxygen, C, MLSS, or D, COD? Your answer is the microbes. They consume the biochemical oxygen demand. The dissolved oxygen supplies the microbes with the oxygen demand that they require, okay? BOD is an indirect measurement of the organic matter in the wastewater. The microbes are doing the work. We provide dissolved oxygen to them so they can do the work. Dissolved oxygen does not consume BOD, okay? MLSS would also not be correct. If I had written MLVSS right here, that would be very confusing. Microbes and MLVSS are synonymous. Okay, it really talks about all the volatile. But I said MLSS. There's a lot of inert matter in MLSS, so it wouldn't be that. And COD stands for chemical oxygen demand, which is kind of the cousin of BOD. So no, it wouldn't be that either. It'd be microbes. So let me back out of here. See if there's any questions. A lot of people answering. Yes, early morning. Okay, yep, absolutely. Matt, thank you. Donnie says, thank you for doing this. Can we get a video on reciprocity and what that process looks like? Yeah, hey, Donnie, I'll do that. And actually, I might as well say it now. I'm talking to Oregon State for the next how-to tutorial. They've agreed to go on a video with me. I've sent them my list of questions, and I'm waiting for them to hear back from them. They kind of do this. They've got communication teams, and Ohio was kind of like this. They were great, super easy to work with, but they've got to kind of mind their liability too, jumping on a YouTube channel with me and talking about it. So Oregon's up next. Reciprocity is, I guess, Donnie, I would love to do one on reciprocity, but I guess when it comes down to that, it's like, it depends on the state. And I think that's the hard part. If you work in a state that does the ABC testing, then like you're going to be able to reciprocate with most states. California doesn't. And actually, at one point in my life, I was looking at moving out of state, and it was pretty surprising how many states did not reciprocate with California. So I can do one, Donnie, but it's going to be vague. So I'm happy to do it. Microbes. Yep, rooted. Absolutely microbes. All right, let's jump back in to the slideshow. Which of the following could cause problems on a trickling filter? A, cycota, B, filter flies, C, ponding, or D, all of the above? Which could cause problems on a trickling filter? A, cycota, B, filter flies, C, ponding, D, all of the above. I remembered to activate my pen this time, everybody. All right. The answer is D, all of the above. Cycota are a type of filter fly. It's just a more specific. Be ready for cycota. I think that was on my 2, if I can remember correctly, a question about cycota. Ponding also, you got to keep that deck clear. You got to keep those sloughings going, even if it means you got to do it yourself, because which I do here at the plant. If you check out my trickling filter video, I actually demonstrated hydraulically overloading it. I can't flood mine because I don't have a valve on my underdrain, but I have worked at a plant that did have a valve on the underdrain, and you could flood it. We just never did. But ponding, what'll happen there is the deck gets covered with algae, or something down below happens where there's an obstruction, and you lose a ton of surface area for treatment. And it'll literally do what it sounds like. It'll pond and it'll fall down the sides. And on the sides, what goes on is you're hydraulically overloading that media, because now it's just running off and it's not actually distributing as designed. But you've just lost a ton of surface area. Like I said, everything under that pond is not being utilized. Cycota and filter flies are obviously a nuisance. Something you might be asked about is maintaining good housekeeping around your trickling filter, like the groundskeeping, keeping the grass down, is a big way to prevent filter flies, because they can't breed in things like that. And so yeah, there you go. And I've got a poll up on the channel. It looks like nutrient removal part 2 is winning. I've got I think trickling filter troubleshooting's coming in second place, but it's about my video I'm going to do next week. So if you really want me to do something about trickling filter troubleshooting, go vote in that poll. I'm going to start putting the script and the film together for that tomorrow. Number 34, during storm events, what is a problem? What is a problem? I wrote that weird. What problem is most likely to occur in a secondary clarifier? A, very high and very concentrated sludge blanket. B, biological washout in the effluent. C, biological starvation due to diluted influent. D, none of the above. Which one's going to happen when you're having a storm event? Most likely to happen to your secondary clarifier. The answer is B, biological washout in the effluent. A very high and very concentrated sludge blanket? No, I would say a very high sludge blanket because nothing can settle because it's so turbulent, but it wouldn't be concentrated, it would be mixed up and dispersed. So that's what makes that not correct. Biological washout? Absolutely, there's so much turbulence, you're not able to actually settle, and they'll go right over the weirs. Been there, no fun. Biological starvation due to diluted influent. This is a common misconception. Actually, what will happen is during massive storm events, especially in California, when we don't have rain for 7 months, it's part of our climate, it just doesn't happen. And then all of a sudden you get a ripper, goalie washer is one of my old supervisors used to say, and every gnarly thing that is built up in that, that pipe over the year has now cut loose and it's heading your way. So no, you won't get diluted biological starvation. If anything, can make matters worse. Or D, none of the above. Actually, Matt just did a video, it was an excellent video on wasting. I watched it yesterday, Operator Mindset. He got some grease that came in from a storm they're having down there in Georgia. So check that out. All right, number 35. Which of the following substances would require a positive displacement pump? Which of the following substances would require a positive displacement pump? A, finished effluent. B, plant influent. C, return activated sludge. D, primary clarifier sludge. Which one would require it? A, finished effluent. B, plant influent. C, return activated sludge. D, primary clarifier sludge. The answer is D, primary clarifier sludge. Would require a positive displacement pump. If you've ever tried to pump 3% solids with a centrifugal pump, you make cake batter. It doesn't work. Finished effluent, absolutely, you do not need a positive displacement pump. There is a situation I've seen where they would be used in this very high pressure situations, but what they're looking at on these questions is to see if you understand that you would not use a centrifugal pump on primary clarifier sludge. RAS is thin enough, return activated sludge is thin enough. I use centrifugal pumps on my RAS, and guess what? My RAS is somewhere around 8,000 to 9,000 milligrams per liter. It's pretty thick. So it's still the centrifugal pumps push it just fine. Plant influent, no. I mean, your TSS on your plant influent's what, 300? Very, very liquidy, and finished effluent's just water for the most part. So yeah, it's primary clarifier sludge. You need positive displacement pumps to move thick, very solids, heavy liquids. One more question and we'll move on to, I'm gonna check the chat after this question. Which of the following is considered a type of chemical feed pump? A, a diaphragm pump. B, a peristaltic pump. C, a positive displacement pump. Or D, all of the above. Which of the following is considered a type of chemical feed pump? Diaphragm, peristaltic, positive displacement, or D, all of the above? And your answer, I don't know if my microphone picked it up, but a motor contactor just slammed shut in the room. A little real world stuff happening here at the plant. And it's D, all the above. Diaphragm and peristaltic pumps are forms of positive displacement pumps. I haven't done a pump. Oh, I did do a pump video. What am I talking about? It's one of my more popular videos. Go check out my pump video where we pulled that pump out of the wet well at the very beginning. I talk about peristaltic pumps in there. I use those for chemical feed here at the plant. I have used diaphragm pumps. Those are the ones, if you're familiar, that go ta-ta, ta-ta, ta-ta when they're feeding, and that's that diaphragm shaft smacking against the head of the pump. I've rebuilt more of those than I'd ever like to imagine. If it were between me, if I had my, I had it my way my entire career, I would use peristaltic over diaphragm personally, but there's some nuance there that I'm not going to get into on this. That's more of a grades 3, 4, 5, why that is. And positive displacement pump, like I said, both of those are positive displacement pumps. So it's be D, Let me jump out of the slideshow. Check. See if there's any questions. Oh, let's see. Sorry, I appreciate. You're awesome. Thank you so much. I wish I could scroll up on this one. Can I scroll? Oh, here we go. I'm in Washington, certified in drinking water, wastewater. Appreciate it. You're awesome. Oh, absolutely, Donnie. All the oxygen will be utilized. Got it. Yep, that's right. So the oxygen doesn't treat the BOD. The oxygen is utilized by the microbes who treat the BOD. Rooted says, thanks for this, Shawn. Need to leave. We'll definitely be watching later. Appreciate your commitment to helping us. Absolutely, Rooted. Good to see you. See, people are actively doing this. I need to leave. Watch tomorrow. Shawn Enthusiast, Matt Turdner, great team, you too. Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Chief Squeezy Poop. I saw your comment yesterday and just laughed. Or not your comment, your username. Loved it. So funny. I wish I could get away with having a channel called that, but I don't think people would take me seriously. All right, so let's get back to it. Number 37, what kind of pump has a volute? A, centrifugal, B, progressive cavity, C, peristaltic, D, venturi. What kind of pump has a volute? A, centrifugal, B, progressive cavity, C, peristaltic, D, venturi. And that would be a centrifugal pump. I almost did it again. Select the pin. Come on, Shawn, get with it. Centrifugal pumps have volutes. Go back, check out that pump video. You know, I'm going to reference a lot of videos that I've done in this live stream. I'm not going to put them in the description because there's going to be so many that I reference. Just look for them in the playlists and stuff. But yeah, I talk about the Bernoulli effect in that pump video where we pulled that submersible chopper pump and deragged it. The Bernoulli effect happens in the volute, and it's yeah, I'm not going to get into it right now, but yeah, the centrifugal pumps have volutes. Progressive cavity pumps have rotors and stators, and peristaltic pumps have rollers and heads. And venturi pumps are, you know, I did a venturi talk as well. Venturi is kind of hard for me to get into because it's not something I use all the time, but it's you know, something that you can check out on. I did a whiteboard on it. Okay, 38. Which of the following grinds larger solids into smaller particles? A, bar screen, B, a microscreen, C, a comminutor, D, an auger screw. Which of the following grinds larger solids into smaller particles? The answer is a comminutor. Bar screens screen bigger stuff. Microscreens, like it's funny, my plant's weird. Whoever designed my plant needs to be sat down and talked to. I have no bar screen on my influent, which is why I derag my influent pumps so much, even though they're chopper pumps. Right before I went on vacation, I actually texted Matt of Operator Mindset pictures of this. When it happened, I was 20 minutes from being on vacation, friggin' VFD tripped and over temp on the pump, and I had to get Paul out here, and we had to yank that thing, and it was totally ragged up with a mop head. Actually, not to plug Matt too much, but he does a great job on his channel. He did a whole video on mop heads. You should check it out. We don't have a bar screen. It frustrates me, but we do have a micro screen on the MBR, because if we didn't, our membranes would blind. You gotta have micro screens on those. It's like a fine screen. And then comminutors grind stuff up, make it easier for downstream processes to function. And an auger screw is typically gonna be used to get stuff off either the bar screens or grit. I've seen them used in both. They're not gonna grind anything up. Comminutor. And if you're asked about a bar minutor, by the way, it's a bar screen comminutor duo, bar minutor. I don't know if you're going to be asked about those. Those are not as common. What typically is done with grit that is removed in preliminary treatment? Preliminary treatment. A, it's washed down and shipped to a landfill. B, it's put into digesters for further processing. C, it's trucked into aeration basins to feed the microbes. D, all of the above. What is typically done with grit that is removed in preliminary treatment? And your answer is A. It's washed down, the water's recycled to the front of the plants for treatment, and the grit is shipped to a landfill. As a matter of fact, I think I had a question on a practice grade 5. It was not on the test itself, but it was which of the following is the only thing at a wastewater plant considered hazmat? And it was grit was the answer in this particular thing. It's considered hazardous material, and it's shipped to a landfill. But before it's shipped, it is washed down, and that's water's put into processes. If you put this into digesters, you absolutely will not process it. It's inert. You can't process it, and it will take away from your capacity in treatment. Same in the aeration basin. It will take away from capacity. It does not feed the microbes. Watch out for all of the above answers when only one is true. They will do that. 40. What is the ideal oxygen concentration when entering a confined space? A, 19.4%, B, 21.5%, C, 23.6%, D, 27.2%. Ideal oxygen concentration when entering a confined space is B, 21.5%. 19.5 to 23.5 is the range. So anything less than 19.5, so 19.4 would be oxygen deficient. Anything more than 23.5 is explosive. Okay, so you don't want oxygen saturation. Actually, if you've ever seen the signs, no smoking, oxygen in use in medical facilities, that's why, because it's explosive. 21.5% is your ideal oxygen concentration. One more and I'll check the chat. 41, which of the following is not a priority in preliminary treatment? Which of the following is not a priority in preliminary treatment? A, colloidal solids, B, sand, C, eggshells, D, rags and flushable wipes. Read it one more time. Which of the following is not a priority in preliminary treatment? Colloidal solids, sand, eggshells, or rags and flushable wipes? And the answer here is A, colloidal solids. Those are dealt with in secondary treatment. Those are really small particles that are in suspension but are not dissolved. Very, very small. You will not deal with those in preliminary. Preliminary is grit removal and screening, so we screen out the rags and flushable wipes. We let the sand and eggshells and stuff settle in a grit chamber. Okay? Let me pop out of here, check the chat, see what we're doing. Looks like people are answering. We have no grit channel. I don't have a grit channel either, Yaya. It's the worst. What happens in that situations is you have to do a lot of cleaning. A lot of people are answering. And cleaning by like emptying your basins out and vacuuming them out and vacuum trucking them out. It does suck. Yeah, it does suck. Actually, I was just texting with him yesterday, but the deputy director of wastewater for San Luis Obispo, I keep trying to nail him down. They just did the ribbon cutting on their brand new MBR. It's a 5 MGD MBR facility, and he's agreed to do a tour for the channel. It's just trying to get our schedules lined up. It's like splitting the atom. It's difficult. And but he toured my plant not too long ago, and he looked at me incredulously. You don't have a grit channel? And I was like, nope. Built in the 60s, I don't know, like they just never prioritized it. And what's a bummer is we get a ton of sand because of the beach just like right down the road. Christopher Lopez, we have a drum screen at our MBR facility. Yeah, man, absolutely. Drum screens are awesome. We've got, and I did a tour with Todd from Enviro, and it hasn't posted yet because we looked at it and we could have done better. I did the interview segment. I posted that on the channel where I interviewed him about his past, and we nixed the tour because it just wasn't as good as it could have been. And like I was like, I want to mulligan on this. I want to do it over. And we were talking just a couple days ago about he just installed a brand new plant in Paso Robles, so I want to go over there, and they've got drum screens, and he's got an MBR, and so it was a really fine. Mesh drum that rotated, and it had jets that blasted the solids off as it rotated. So it's pretty cool. Hopefully we can do a video on that very soon. And yeah, Matt doesn't have grit chamber either. I was actually really jealous of that guy that you did a plant tour with, Matt, because he had a grit channel, and I was like, oh, what's that like? That must be nice. All right, so back to the slideshow. What is the main function of a SCADA system in a wastewater treatment plant? A, to manually open and close valves in the plant. B, to provide real-time monitoring and control of plant processes. C, to perform laboratory analysis on samples. D, to measure chlorine residuals. Let you think about that for a sec while I drink some water. So the best answer is B. Let me switch back over to my pen. See, I'm getting the hang of it. B, to provide real-time monitoring and control of plant processes. To measure chlorine residuals is a red herring. It's a smoke screen. The chlorine analyzer measures chlorine residuals. Operators measure chlorine residuals. SCADA doesn't measure chlorine residuals. SCADA collects the data. Supervisory control, so that's me, the operator. I have supervisory control. And data acquisition. It's acquiring the data from the sensors. There's programmable logic. Now, it will display your chlorine residual measurement, but the actual controller, like I've got a hot controller, and the sensor actually measures the chlorine residual. SCADA collects the data, projects it to you, the operator, through what is called, and you should know this, HMI, the Human Machine Interface. So we use SCADA pretty generally, like I'm gonna check SCADA, and when I say I'm checking SCADA or I'm doing SCADA checks, I'm actually looking at the HMI. It's this graphical interface that actually allows me to easily communicate with SCADA. It takes all the ones and zeros, programming language, and puts it on a screen that's easy for me to read. So know about the human-machine interface. Yeah, the correct answer to this is to provide real-time monitoring and control of plant processes. 43. Now, let me back up real quick. If B was not on there, and it was some other goofy thing that SCADA doesn't do, measuring chlorine residuals might be an acceptable answer. I don't think they're going to do that, though. It just seems like too simplistic of an answer. Which of the following is not a type of sewer system? A, sanitary sewer, B, storm sewer, C, combined sewer, D, diversion sewer. Which of the following is not a type of sewer system? Sanitary, storm, combined, or diversion? I had to really think about coming up with the wrong choice on this one. Diversion sewer is not a thing as far as I'm aware. D is the correct answer. Sanitary sewer is only sewage, municipal waste. Storm sewer is only stormwater. Just, that's it. It's from rain. They should be separate most of the time, but if not, you will have combined sewers, and that's both storm and sanitary. Go check out Johnny Mac's interview on the channel. He's a grade 3 operator in Connecticut. He actually just emailed me. I haven't heard from him in a while. Just emailed me early this morning that he just got promoted to shift supervisor at a 50 MGD plant. Super happy for Johnny. Congrats to him. But they have combined sewers there. And when it rains, it's a humdinger. He talks about it in the interview. You should check that out. Okay, we're going on to math next. So let me jump out of the chat and see if we have any questions. I moved my answer sheet over to a chair as I was getting ready to start the stream, so I've got to, let's see, I got to go over and walk over and get it. Love SCADA. We use it for all that stuff. You manually close valves with SCADA? I guess manually closing a valve, okay. So you could do it hitting a button. Sure, I guess I could have written that better. Manually closing a valve as I had envisioned going out with an operator physically touching the valve. So yeah, okay, I get what you're saying there. Absolutely. That's a good opportunity for me to refine that question to have some better options. Let me go get my answer sheet. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. That wasn't very long. Let's get to some math. What time we got? Oh, this is definitely going over 2 hours. That's fine, whatever. It'll be okay. Actually, let me make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Doesn't look like I have. Okay. A 6-inch pipe carries water at a rate of 500 GPM. What is the velocity of water in feet per second? Probably should have told people to bring a calculator, but you can just watch. Know that the replay will be available right afterwards, and you can access that. Okay, the first thing I want to do here is I want to convert the 6-inch pipe to feet. This is just how I solve it. You can solve it however you want, but you see velocity of water in feet per second. I have 500 gallons per minute, so I need to convert 500 GPM to cubic feet per second, and I need to convert the 6-inch pipe to square feet. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to start with the pipe. 6 divided by 12. Why am I doing this? Because I'll actually write it out a different way. I'm doing it kind of the fast way. 6 inches times 12 inches in 1 foot. This is how I write my conversion factors. Okay, this is the conversion factor method. I did a video on it. You can go check it out. Watch my video called "The Most Important Math Problem or Math Lesson I Could Ever Do." It was a couple months ago. I break this down. I took the most convoluted math problem I could think of and showed how easy all this is. So this is just how converting units works. 6 in this situation, I'm left with feet. The inches cancel out. 6 divided by 12 is 0.5. Some people do this because the multiplication kind of screws them up, the multiplication sign. They do this, and they call it the monorail or the railroad. However you want to do it, it's fine. I don't really care. So 0.5 feet. And so what we do now is we're going to go 0.785 diameter squared, gives me square feet. So that's 0.5 squared. And so what that is, let me grab my trusty dusty calculator. I've actually already worked all this out. I'm going to have my calculator with me just in case I make a mistake. 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.785, 0.196 square feet. So 0.1, sorry about that. Stop it. 196 square feet. Why did my point not show up? 0.196. Okay, so I've got my square feet. Now I'm going to convert 500 gallons per minute to cubic feet per second. So 500 gallons per minute times, I want to go cubic feet per second. So there's 7.48 gallons in a cubic foot. Gallons are going to cancel out here. Okay. The next thing I want to do, let's just go, I'm not going to go all the way across so I don't screw people up here. This is 66.8 cubic feet per minute. And then we're going to convert to seconds. Okay, and every 1 minute, there's 60 seconds. Okay, minutes cancel out, 66.8. That should be a 0.8, not 668, 66.8. Divided by 60 is 1.11 cubic feet per second. You can write it like this. So I'm going to come down here, 1.11 cubic feet per second. You can do this 2 ways. I'm going to show you both ways. The conversion factor method, which is to put 0.196 down here, square feet. And you could just put a 1 right here, or you could leave it blank. I've seen it done both ways. 2 of the 3 feet go away, and you're left with feet per second when you do the math, and that should be, let me just do it so I don't mess something up here. 1.11 divided by 0.196 gives me 5.66, looks like, so we'll call it 5.7 feet per second. The other way I've seen this done, and how I actually do it when I'm moving through an exam, because I don't write all this stuff out when I'm doing an exam. I just go for it. 1.11, actually I've already got it written up there. So let's go up here to this guy. 1.11 cubic feet per second divided by 0.196 square feet. Sorry, and then that'll cancel, and that leaves me with feet per second over here. That's how you can cancel your units out. But the correct answer is 5.7 feet per second. Okay, so let me pop out. Let me see if there's any questions about what I just did there. I think this is going to be the where I get most of the questions. I'm going to keep all my writing so I don't have any issues here. Great job, Shawn. This was so much fun. This real-time math is so cool. Y'all make sure to ask questions if you are not understanding something. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. I hope you're sticking around. It's always nice to have other people in the comments that are able to answer questions. Don't go anywhere, Matt. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to stay. Okay, let's go to the next one. Treatment plant has an influent BOD of 250 milligrams per liter and an effluent BOD of 25 milligrams per liter. What is the BOD percent removal efficiency? Okay, you might, percent removal, percent efficiency, removal efficiency. This can be written a lot of different ways. But what you do here is you take 250 milligrams per liter minus 25 milligrams per liter. I'm going to kind of put the cart before the horse here. I'll actually write the equation out here in a second. Divided by 250 milligrams per liter. The equation, sorry, I just jumped right in minus out divided by in. Okay, this is percent removal. This is not volatile solids reduction. We're going to do that a little later. So what this gets you, oh, sorry, times 100. The times 100 thing for me, as a math guy, I just automatically do it when I see a decimal. I forget to actually write that out. So what this is 250 minus 25 should be 225 divided by 250, and that should give you 0.9 times 100 is 90%. So 0.9 times 100 gives you 90%. That's it. Very simple. Very, very simple. We're not launching the shuttle on that one. Very easy. And we're going to get harder. Don't worry about it. If you're like, what is he doing? Trust me, it gets harder. This is a grade 1 exam question. I'll do this and then I'll pop into the comments, make sure I didn't lose anybody. A plant treats 2 mgd and doses alum at 10 milligrams per liter. How many pounds of alum are used each day? So before I work this out, alum, chlorine, sodium hypochlorite, frisbees, bricks, you name it. So long as you have mg or mgd or mgh or whatever, it just needs to be million gallons, and a concentration of milligrams per liter, and you're doing it relative to the weight of water, which is 8.34 pounds per gallon, you do the same thing every time for this equation. It's so simple. I did a whole video on the pounds formula. Check it out on the channel if you haven't already. I'll write the Davidson pi, even though I don't use it anymore. People like to use this. So I'm just going to do it this one time, and then I'm going to write it linear. So when you do the, oh man, this is lagging big time, so it's messing up I'm not an artist to begin with. This is extra fun. So what I would do is I would put 2 mgd here. I would do 10 milligrams per liter here. And 8.34 lives here, always. 8.34 pounds per gallon of water, okay? And that's going to give me, in this situation, my pounds per day, okay? If you're curious about how these units actually cancel out, I did a video on that too. There's some actual conversions that happen here. It's not magic beans. So all you do is multiply across the bottom. 2 times 8.34 times 10, and that gives you the number on the top. So it's 2 times 8.34 times 10 gives you 166.8 is what I got, pounds. That would be the answer. The other way, how I write it nowadays is 2 mgd times 8.34 times 10, 166.8 pounds per day. So that's it. Now, something I'm realizing right now I didn't do is a reverse pounds formula for this presentation. You will have one of those. All you do in that situation, let me just show you, because I don't want to leave you hanging. If you go, wait a second, they gave me pounds. What you do is if you've got, say they give you the concentration, they give you the pounds and the concentration, what you would do is you would go this way, and you would divide here, and you would divide here. You're just turning it on its head. 166.8 divided by 10 divided by 8.34 gives you 2. And if you had to go the other way, all right, they gave you the flow, but they didn't give you the concentration. Pull this out of here. You would just do the same thing the other direction. 166.8 divided by 2 divided by 8.34 would give you 10. Okay? Practice that, go over that. If you're watching the replay of this, rewind that a couple times, or just go look at my pounds formula video. This is more of a practice session, but I wanted to take a moment to say that because I just realized I didn't put a reverse pounds formula math problem in here. So this pounds formula is like the linchpin on most wastewater math, especially in California. It comes up a lot. So let me pop out of here and let me see if I have any questions. Let's see here, discard. No, don't discard, keep it. Great way to learn. Yeah. Oh, I got poop emojis from Matt. Awesome. 90. Great, Donnie. I'm assuming you're saying 90%. Let's hop back in. Before I say this, you're never going to find a rectangular wastewater pond. I just wanted to do this to help you with acre feet. I've never seen a rectangular wastewater pond. They're always oval for the most part and sloped down, okay? I've never seen an Olympic swimming pool looking pond. Maybe they exist and I'm just talking out of my you-know-what, and maybe I should just stop talking, but I've never seen a rectangular wastewater pond. They're always circular and so, like an elongated circle, not a square, like four corners. But this is good for demonstration. A rectangular wastewater pond measures 500 feet by 40 feet with an average depth of 12 feet. Calculate the volume of the pond in acre feet. Okay? So what we're going to do here is turn my pen on so I can write on the thing. Very simply, 500 feet times 40 feet times 12 feet. Because what did I ask for? Did I ask for the surface area in acres? No. Volume. Not the surface area in acre feet, volume in acre feet. Here's what's really interesting. There is 43,560 square feet in an acre foot. There's 43,560, in an acre, square feet in an acre. Back up, 43,560 square feet in an acre. There's 43,560 cubic feet in an acre foot. Why? Because 43,560 square feet multiplied by 1 foot in depth equals 43,560 cubic feet. So it always tripped me out, like it's the same. So just pay attention when they're asking about volume or surface area. If they'd asked me about the surface area, I would not be using the depth. Volume is the thing here. So 500 times 40 times 12 gives me 240,000 cubic feet. Put that in your calculator. Sorry, I can't edit this video. Now you've seen how much I mess up when I do YouTube videos, and I can just stop and re-record. I don't get to do that here. So if I jumble up some stuff, well, that's just what it is. That's the risks of being alive. Divided by 43,560 cubic feet in an acre foot. You could also write this like the conversion factor method, which would be to put 1 acre foot divided by 43,560 cubic feet. Cubic feet cancel out. You plug that in your calculator, it should give you 5.51 acre feet. Okay? Acre feet. That would be simply how you would find an acre foot calculation. That's it. Next one. Okay, I'm going to do this one and then I'm going to pop over to the chat to see if I lose anybody. A wastewater treatment pond has a surface area of 7 acres and receives an influent flow rate of 0.5 mgd. What is the hydraulic loading rate? Now, I have not given it to you, and this is where if you start getting lost, you need to pay attention to the units they give you in the answers, because they give you units in the answers. Maybe Matt in Georgia, do they do that? Because in California they do, and you can reverse engineer a math problem if you get stuck. Hydraulic loading to a pond is inches per day, okay? It's not, that's it, it's inches per day. So you gotta figure out how to turn all this into inches per day. So an important conversion, 1 mg or mgd, depending on what you're doing, is 3.069 acre feet, acres or acre feet. 3.069 acre feet in 1 mg and 3.069 acre feet per day in 1 mgd. That's what I'm trying to say. So in this situation, what we're going to do is we're going to write out 0.5, what do we got, mg million gallons per day, times 3.069 acre feet. I got my notes here to make sure I'm doing my units properly. So if you see me glancing down a little bit, that's what I'm doing. I just want to make sure I'm being accurate here. Per 1 mg times, where are you at? 12 inches in a foot times 7 acres. Okay, so let me explain what you're looking at right here. This is the conversion factor method written out like total. This is how I'm just going to solve the problem. So I'm converting million gallons per day to acre feet, million gallons anyway to acre feet. I don't want to do a million gallons per day because I need the inches per day. So this gets into some like nuanced math stuff I'm not going to talk about. Don't worry about it. Just know that 1 mg is 3.069. So mg cancels out, acres cancel out, because that's why I have 7 acres on the bottom. I have to divide by those 7 acres to get that acre to go away. Feet cancel out right here because I'm going to inches per day. So that leaves me with inches per day left over. So 0.5 times 3.069 times 12 divided by 7, you should get 2.63 inches per day. Now, I might have lost some of you, so I'm going to pop out of here and look at the chat. I converted million gallons to acre feet, and then I converted acre feet to, I canceled out the acres actually, because I have 7 acres here by dividing by it, and then I converted feet to inches. That's what you're seeing. And I kept the day because hydraulic loading is inches per day. So let me pop over to in the slideshow and see how many people are going, what did you just say? Thank you for taking the time to get us up to speed on passing these wastewater tests. Absolutely. Yep. Happy to do it. Looks like everybody's following me. Cool. And if not, holler, please. I'm here to help. Okay. A wastewater plant has 3 lagoons. By the way, pond and lagoon, they're pretty much interchangeable. Don't get thrown off. It's about a lagoon or a pond. They're talking about the same thing. A wastewater treatment plant has 3 lagoons that receive an influent flow of 2 mgd and serves a population of 15,000 people. Each lagoon has a surface of area of 8 acres, 2 are 7 feet deep and 1 is 8 feet deep. Determine the organic loading to a pond in pounds of BOD per day per acre. That should be written BOD per day per acre. Sorry, I wrote that backwards. That's the actual unit. Now, I've got some smoke screens in here for you. First and foremost, we got to talk about something. I've given you a flow, but I haven't given you a concentration. I did give you amount of people though. What's that about? There's a conversion you should commit to memory today, and that is 0.17 pounds per day, BOD per day, per capita. What does per capita mean? Per person. So you'll start seeing this on your 2s. I saw it on my 3. If you're given the amount of people, all you do is multiply the amount of people by 0.17 and you've got your pounds of BOD per day. Easy. Now, if they don't give you this and they give you a flow and a concentration, you need to do the pounds formula to get your pounds of BOD. That's what we did with the alum a couple slides ago. You need to be able to do that. So let's quickly find our BOD per day. So that's 15,000 times 0.17 pounds BOD per day per person, and that should give us 2,550 pounds per day. By the way, on the 0.17, that is a hard and fast rule when they don't give you another number, okay? We are assuming the science behind 0.17. If they say serves a population of 15,000 and it's 0.195 per person, you use that number. Like, don't go, well, it's 0.17 because Shawn said it was 0.17. Use what they give you, but if they don't give you anything, it's 0.17. All right, so it's 2,550 pounds per day of BOD, and now we have to figure out our acres. Now, I have 3 lagoons. Pay attention to that. Each lagoon has a surface area of 8 acres. So now we're gonna go 3 times 8 is 24 acres. Now here's the kicker on organic loading to a pond. You don't use the depth. You use it in an aeration basin, you use the depth. In a trickling filter, you use the depth. But for whatever reason, and I don't know why, maybe Matt, you can weigh in on why this is. I've never been able to figure out why we use surface area for organic loading and not volume, but that's what it is. So all you do now is 2,550 divided by 24 acres, and that's gonna give us pounds BOD per day per acre. Okay, so I could just literally draw a line right here. And that should get you 106.25 pounds BOD per day per acre. Okay, that's how you do organic loading to a pond. I'm going to pop out of the chat, see if Matt has something to say or if anybody wants to ask a question. Following and driving, Donnie. It's fine. Hey, I do a lot of my YouTubing while I'm wandering around the plant working, like not filming. I'm a huge consumer of YouTube, which is probably why I decided to do a YouTube channel in the beginning. I listen to so much stuff while I'm working. And sometimes I got autoplay, some I don't want to watch, but I've got like icky gloves on and I can't take my gloves off. Okay, next question. A trickling filter has a diameter of 60 feet and a media depth of 6 feet. The influent flow is 2.5 mgd and the recirculation flow is 1 mgd. Calculate the hydraulic loading to the filter in gallons per day per square foot. Okay, now we're getting into some good stuff. So first things first, we need to get gallons per day, don't we? So we have 2 mgd and 1 mgd. We use the recirculation flow in hydraulic loading. I did it again. I was getting so good about cycling back to my pen when I came back to the slideshow. You use the recirculation flow in hydraulic loading. So we're going to say 2.5 plus 1 is 3.5. Some really ground-shattering math here. mgd d. Okay, why am I writing it like that? Because we're going to convert to gallons. There is 1 million gallons in 1 mg. Cancel, cancel. Try to do that. There we go. 3,500,000 gallons is 3.5 mgd or per day. Gallons per day, sorry. So that's the last time I'm going to do that. If you see me can jump from mgd to gallons throughout the rest of the training, that's just because it's a very quick conversion. I don't think we need to spend our time writing that out. I just wanted to show you at least once. Okay, now the fun part. We got to figure out our square feet on this thing. So it's gallons per day per square foot. We do not use the media depth on the trickling filter. We only use the diameter. 0.785 diameter squared is my favorite. If they give you radius, be ready for that. If they give you radius, it's just radius times 2 is diameter, because radius is half of diameter. If you want to use pi r squared, be my guest. I don't teach that way. 0.785 works really well for me for a lot of reasons. So I'm just going to stay with that for this training. Times 60 squared. So you put that in your calculator. I'll just do it so I make sure I didn't, mess up when I did my notes. 2,826 is what I got. Yep. Square feet. So I'm going to actually plop that over here. 2,826 square feet. And you simply 3,500,000 divided by 826, 1,238 gallons per day per square foot. 1,238 gallons per day per square foot. Little high, but yeah, that's how you do it. We'll do one more and then I'll check the chat. Organic loading to a trickling filter. Now this one's a load of fun. The organic loading to a trickling filter units are so strange, but you'll see. A trickling filter has a diameter of 60 feet and a media depth of 6 feet. The influent flow is 2 mgd with a recirculation ratio of 2 to 1 and a BOD concentration of 150 milligrams per liter. Calculate the organic loading to the filter in pounds of BOD per 1,000 cubic feet of media per day. So let's start with our pounds of BOD and then we'll get into the cubic foot thing. So an organic loading to a trickling filter, you do not use the recirculation rate. Recirculation ratio is a smoke screen. And I guarantee you, if you do use that flow, you will have an answer with the wrong answer in the options for you to choose. They do that. They're expecting it. So this is a simple pounds formula, 2 mg times 8.34 pounds per gallon of water times 150 milligrams per liter BOD. I wrote that unit out, I didn't write the others, sorry. But yeah, 2 mg, 8.34 pounds per gallon of water, 150 milligrams per liter, should give you, where did I write that? Flip my notes over. Where are you at? My notes are hard to read, so I'm just gonna do it. Times 150, 2,502 pounds per day of BOD. And now we go to our cubic feet. So this is 0.785 diameter squared. Diameter squared times 6 feet. So this is feet. Actually, I actually believe, let me be accurate here. The exponent's on the outside of the parentheses. So yeah, what you would do is I do parentheses first, 60 times 60 times 0.785 times 6 feet should give me 16,956 cubic feet. But we don't do pounds per cubic foot with trickling filters. We do pounds per 1,000 cubic foot. So all you do is divide by 1,000. And I think the reason they do this is because if you didn't do this, your pounds per cubic foot would be so small. It would be like a decimal. So this kind of makes it a little bit more of a normal number. That would give me 16.956, which I would just round up to 1,000 cubic feet. If you were to do the difference between the calculation between 17 and 16.956, it's negligible. You'll be close enough to the correct answer. So I'm just going to drop 2,502 on the top of this, 2,502 pounds BOD. And all these math problems are on my channel, by the way. I think I haven't done every single one, but I've done almost every one of these on standalone videos. So you can go study those too. So 2,502 divided by 17, it's 147 pounds BOD per day. BOD per day per 1,000 cubic feet. That's how you solve an organic loading to a trickling filter problem. Okay? So let me pop out, see if there's any questions. Keep. You can have Siri play next video if you have earbuds on. You know, Keith, thank you for that. My issue is, I say, whenever I want Siri to do something for me, and I have a guy's voice now, I don't have the gal's voice, he does not do a thing. He's useless. When I do not want him to do anything, like activate when I'm trying to get my kids to calm down, absolutely I'll play that rock song. You know, it's the crazy, and it's probably my fault. I don't enunciate very well. But yeah, that's my feeling on Siri. Thank you, Keith, though. I do appreciate that. I'm just a hairball when it comes to technology. Michigan in the house, thanks for this. All right, Michigan, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. No questions, it looks like, so let's get going. Next one. A circular clarifier has a diameter of 80 feet. The influent flow rate is 3.5 mgd. Calculate the weir overflow rate in gallons per day per foot of weir. Okay, let me get my pin tool activated again. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, gallons per day per linear foot, 3.5 mgd is 3,500,000 gallons. Okay? If you want to know how I did that, go back a couple slides and look at that on the replay. Like I said, I'm not going to do that conversion every single time. You just multiply by 1,000,000. And if you have gallons and you want to take it to mg, multiply by 1,000,000. And then the fun part, this is what trips people up, is getting that linear foot. So I have a diameter of 80 feet. So all you do is you take 80 feet, you're getting the circumference, and multiply by pi. This is the only time I actually use pi. 8 times 3.14. Or sorry, 80 times 3.14 gives me 251.2 feet. And I'm gonna elaborate on this in a second. Let me just solve the problem and then I'll elaborate on this whole pi thing. Feet And that gives me, where's my notes? 13,933, which is a pretty good, pretty typical textbook answer on, I think it's 10,000 to 20,000 gallons per day per foot weir overflow rate is acceptable. Sorry, I just went right to the fraction. Okay, so let's talk about circumference. If you are asked about the diameter and you are given a circumference, you know, you have a circumference of 251.2 feet, what's the diameter? You would divide by pi. If you have the diameter and you are asked for the circumference like you are in this situation, you multiply by pi. If you have the radius and you're asked for the circumference, which is probably, that might be where they go with it, you would have a 40-foot radius, you would multiply by 2 to get your diameter, because radius is half of diameter, and then you would multiply by 3.14. If you have any questions, definitely ask, but yeah, this is about one of the easiest math issues you're going to run into. It's just people forget to do the pi thing. A circular clarifier has a diameter of 90 feet and a depth of 12 feet. The influent flow rate is 4.2 mgd. Calculate the surface loading rate. Okay. Surface loading rate is surface overflow rate, and it goes by another name. Surface overflow, surface loading, and maybe hydraulic loading. This is just, you take the square feet. You don't use the depth. So influent flow rate is 4.2 mgd. This is going to be gallons per day per square foot. So 4.2 mgd is 4,200,000 gallons. Okay, per day. And the circular clarifier has a diameter of 90 feet and a depth of 12 feet. I do not care about the depth. I only care about the diameter. And so that's 0.785 diameter squared, which is 90 squared. Plug that in your calculator. And that gives you 6,358.5 square feet. I'm just going to bring it up here like I did the last time. 358.5 square feet. And that gives me, divided by 6358.5, 660. Is that right? Is that what I got? Yep. 660 gallons per day per square foot. That's a little low. Not until you get to your 3. Let me write that a little bit more, less like a kindergartner. 660. I don't think need to really commit the 800 to 1,200 gallons per day per square foot parameter to memory until you get to your 3. I don't think. Good to know, but yeah, this is how you solve the problem. All right, let me pop over to the chat and see if anybody's got any questions. Okay, Michigan's still in the house. Great. No other questions. Let's pop back over. Keep on trucking. Okay, this is a volatile solids reduction calculation. We do not use the percent removal on this one. All right, a wastewater treatment plant sends sludge to a digester with 65% volatile solids. After digestion, the volatile solids content is reduced to 45%. Calculate the volatile solids reduction percentage. Come on over here. Pin. Okay. So this equation is in minus out divided by in minus in times out. I think a lot of people get to this math problem and go, oh, it's percent removal. It is not percent removal. It's a totally different math equation. Okay, so that would translate, oh, and then times 100. Like I said, when I do decimals, I just automatically, my brain translate it to a whole number. Okay, so 0.65, you would do this as a decimal. 0.65 minus 0.45 divided by 0.65 minus 0.65 times 0.45 times 100. Okay, something to be aware of. You can do the top on its own, that's fine, but do not do anything with this 0.65 on the left until you've resolved your parentheses. If you do, just go right across from left to right, you're gonna screw the whole thing up. It's gonna be a wackadoo number. So this is, I'm gonna come down here now, and I'm gonna keep working it out linear down here. So 0.65 minus 0.45 is 0.2 divided by 0.65 minus 0.2925. So you could round this up to 0.293 if you want. It's going to make almost no difference in the final number. I worked it out just to make sure that it wouldn't make a difference, but I tend to leave some of these decimals in there on these smaller numbers just to kind of cross my T's. But yeah, notice the 0.65 still hanging out there. I did my parentheses first, order of operations. And then this is 0.2. I can subtract 0.65 from it now. 0.3575. 3575. And that gives me 0.559 times 100 is 55.9% volatile solids reduction. If you were to have rounded this up to 293, it would be 56%. They're not going to do that. It'll be like several percentages difference on your actual final answer to choose from. They're not going to separate it by 0.1. That would be ridiculous. So that is a volatile solids reduction math problem. Okay. A treatment plant receives an influent flow rate of 2.5 mgd with a BOD concentration of 250 milligrams per liter with a primary clarifier effluent of 150 milligrams per liter. The aeration tank volume has a 1.2 million gallons. Sorry. The aeration tank has a volume of 1.2 million gallons, and the mixed liquor suspended solids concentration is 4,000 milligrams per liter, 80%, which is volatile. What is the F to M ratio? Food to microorganism ratio. So, food to microorganism, or as I like to call it, the BOD to MLVSS ratio, is exactly that. F to M equals the pounds BOD divided by the pounds MLVSS. It is a very simple calculation, but I think all this jargon up here throws people off. There's just a lot to talk about in this word problem. So let's just break it down very simply. I'm going to do a pounds formula for BOD on the first. And so what that looks like is 2.5 mgd. I got my flow, my plant flow, 2.5 mgd times 8.34 pounds per gallon of water times what? 250 or 150? I got 250 milligrams per liter BOD concentration, but a primary clarifier effluent of 150. It's that one. It's 150 because my primary clarifier took 100 milligrams per liter out. That food is gone. 150 milligrams per liter is the actual food that's entering aeration. Remember that. They might do that to you. They probably won't on the 2, but they definitely do that stuff on the 3, 4, and 5. All right. And now we're going to divide that by the MLVSS. So what is that? That is the pounds in aeration. So I'm going to, and you're not, I don't think, going to run into this on your 1s and 2s. Definitely on the 3, 4, and 5, they're going to give you a secondary clarifier volume. You don't use the secondary clarifier with a food to microorganism ratio. It is only what's in aeration, okay? So the aeration tank volume has 1.2 million gallons. So right here, I'm going to put 1.2 mg. Again, 8.34 is a constant. We're talking relative to the weight of water, pounds per gallon of water, times what? 4,000 milligrams per liter? No, because that's the MLSS concentration. 80% of which is volatile. So let's go down here. 4,000 times what? 0.8 gives me, where are you at on my notes? 3,200. 3,200 milligrams per liter. So that, MLVSS, that is what goes right here. 3,200 milligrams per liter. Okay? So now work that out. Where's my notes? Okay, 2.5 times 8.34 times 150 should be 3,127.5 divided by 1.2 times 8.34 times 3,200 gives me 32,000, yeah, that's right, 32,025.6 pounds MLVSS. And then you just divide one more time. I'm going to bring the answer down here so it's a little bit easier to see. When you divide those, it's 0.097. I would call that a 0.1 actually. 0.097 is so close. A 0.1 is my F to M ratio here. So this is a high MCRT or SRT, whatever your parameter is. This is a pretty high level, old sludge age. You're probably nitrifying, denitrifying, etc. in this. So let me pop over to the chat and see if I've got any questions. Keith, come on. All right. Oh, I had an odd question on my 2 that said, what would be the reason a lagoon 3 feet or less is always aerobic? I can't remember the choices. The answer I chose is something about sunlight penetration, but I can't recall the instructor going over that topic. Yeah, I would say that's the answer because it's just so shallow. That's part of the thing is there's sunlight. There can't be algae growth at a certain level of a facultative pond because, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, it's so much easier to think about these answers. You guys comment and I'm able to think about the answer for a second before I comment back on the fly. I would have chosen that if that was the best answer because yeah, sunlight can penetrate a 3-foot pond for sure. A 9-foot pond on the other hand, it's a lot harder, especially with all the organics, and that's where you can get your anaerobic zone. If Matt, if you want to elaborate, if you're still on the live stream, please by all means do. But if not, that's fine. The answer I chose was something on sunlight penetration, but I can't recall the instructor going over that topic. I think you got it, Keith. I think that was right. Yeah, those ponds are pretty shallow, aerobic ponds. Or lagoon, they're whatever you call them. Okay. A wastewater treatment plant has an aeration tank volume of 1.5 million gallons and a mixed liquor suspended solids concentration of 3,000 milligrams per liter. The influent flow rate is 2.5 mgd with a TSS of 120 milligrams per liter. Calculate the sludge age in days. So I did a video about this that you should check out because it trips people up. If I was to have given you a wasting concentration and a wasting flow in this, you'd be like, well, which one do I use? Sludge age is it's a division problem between aeration and what's coming into aeration. SRT and MCRT is what's in aeration or the secondary system, and I'll talk about that when we get to the MCRT problem next, divided by what is leaving the plant, okay? So sludge age is relative to what's coming in, kind of a snapshot look, not much you can do to change it. That's why I don't like sludge age personally, but you have to know how to calculate it. MCRT and SRT are what's going on in aeration relative to what you're wasting out, or in the MCRT's case, what's also going out over the weirs. So like you have no process control in sludge age that I'm aware of, aside from, doing something to your primary. You have all your process control in the other one. Anyway, that's my whole little spiel about it. Let's go ahead and work this math problem out. Switch over to my pen. But yeah, you gotta know sludge age for, I believe this is on my grade 1. The MCRT, honestly, the MCRT is the only math problem that I would expect only to be on the grade 2. All the rest of these I would be prepared for, personally. You might not get them. You might. A wastewater treatment plant has an aeration tank volume of 1.5 million gallons and a mixed liquor suspended solids concentration of 3,000 milligrams per liter. The influent flow rate is 2.5 mgd with a TSS of 120 milligrams per liter. Calculate the sludge age in days. Okay. Simply, it is pounds of in aeration of MLSS or TSS. They're synonymous. I did a whole whiteboard on this one. MLSS versus TSS. I get into MLVSS and VSS in there as well. From a laboratory standpoint, a math standpoint, MLSS and TSS are the same thing. They cancel each other out as the units go. So I want to pause here and just say something. When you're dealing with TSS, you use MLSS in activated sludge math. When you're using BOD, you use MLVSS. They don't equal each other. I should probably draw an arrow. So that doesn't confuse people who are like, wait, why is he putting an equal sign there? When you're doing a math problem in activated sludge, if it's TSS related, you use MLSS. If you're doing BOD related, you use MLVSS. F to M ratio is MLVSS against BOD. MCRTs and sludge age and SRTs are TSS against MLSS. So there's that. All right. So pounds of aeration MLSS divided by pounds of TSS in the influent. I'll put influent TSS. So this is going to be 1.5 mg. Where am I getting that? Sorry. Up here, 1.5 million gallons is the volume of the aeration basin times 8.34 pounds per gallon of water times 3,000 milligrams per liter divided by 2.5 mgd is the plant flow times 8.34 times 120 milligrams per liter. Now, and I'm going to actually touch on something here in a second about units. But let me finish this first because I just realized I didn't tell you something you should know. 37,530 pounds. If you put that in your calculator, that's what you should get. Pounds MLSS divided by, it's kind of a squirrely line there, 2,502 pounds TSS per day. Now, MLSS, because for the sake of math and lab, is the same thing as TSS. Those cancel out and you're left with days. You do that division problem, you should be getting somewhere around 15 days is your sludge age. Now, let me go back to F to M real quick because I want to point something out that I learned not too long ago. This is also 2.5 mgd, and there is no D down here. You're left with a days, but we don't express it that way for some reason, and I've never been able to figure out why it's a ratio. It's not actually a true ratio because you have a unit left, but it's not how it's done. Don't ask me. Don't let it trip you up. Just know it's a decimal. It should be a decimal. Yeah, I guess that's one of those weird times in math that we just ignore the extra unit. But that is 100% how you do an F to M ratio, and this is how you do a sludge age. You're left with days. Let me pop out of the chat, or pop out of the slideshow and see if I've got any chat questions. We're going to go to MCRT next. The answer I chose was something about sunlight penetration, but I can't recall the answer. Oh, we already did that. Okay, very good. MCRT. So this is a grade 2 problem, but grade 1 people, you should just know it. I mean, why not know it? Anybody that works in a plant of any real size, they do MCRTs, or they do SRTs in other places. And so let me just, if you are not in California and you're in a different place that uses SRT, oop, I did it again. Let me get my pen activated. Pen. MCRT uses all the solids in the secondary. So this includes the clarifier, divided by WAS plus effluent TSS pounds. SRT is aeration specific. It's aeration. Do not use the secondary clarifier and do not use the effluent TSS. It's like the sludge age, except WAS instead of influent, okay? The MCRT is a more, I don't want to use the word appropriate because there's a lot of huge plants that don't use MCRT out there. MCRT is a more full picture of a microorganism's residence in the secondary system. SRT is more of a process control thing that's used a little bit more of a smaller, more narrow view, all right? So a wastewater treatment plant has an aeration tank volume of 1.5 million gallons, a secondary clarifier of 500,000 gallons, and a mixed liquor suspended solids concentration of 3,000 milligrams per liter. The WAS flow rate is 0.25 mgd. It's pretty high, but I wrote the math problem and it's fine. You're not going to, that seems pretty high. With a solids concentration of 8,000 milligrams per liter, and the effluent flow rate of 2.5 mgd with a solids concentration of 20 milligrams per liter, calculate the MCRT in days. So let me write the equation. I did a whiteboard on this not too long ago. There's actually 2 versions of this on my channel. You can go watch. 2.5, I'm sorry, I'm doing the math. Let me do the equation first. Pounds MLSS in secondary divided by pounds MLSS WAS plus pounds. I've already kind of written it on the right there, but I didn't write pounds. In the effluent TSS. Okay, and this is what that looks like. You add these two together, 1.5 plus 500,000 gallons. Secondary clarifier, the aeration tank volume, plus the secondary clarifier. So I've got 1.5 million gallons in aeration and a secondary clarifier of 500,000 gallons. So I would put 2 mg right there, because the mixed liquor suspended solids concentration in aeration is going to be the same in the secondary clarifier, because it's not the 8,000, even though that is what is at the bottom of the clarifier, because that's where your WAS is pulled off of. The reason why is you've got a bunch of clear water up above that sludge blanket. If I was to put a diffuser down there and pump air into the secondary clarifier, it would mix it all up, and it would be 3,000 milligrams per liter in that secondary clarifier. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, you use the MLSS concentration from aeration when calculating your pounds in the secondary. Okay, so it's 2 mg. So that's why you just combine the two. The state of California sheet has you do 2 pounds formulas and add those together. There's no reason to do that, because you just have to add the 2 volumes together, like I'm doing, and then multiply by 8.34, and then multiply by the MLSS concentration, which is 3,000. Times 3,000 milligrams per liter, divided by flow rate 0.25 mg. Be prepared for them to give you a flow rate in GPM, gallons per minute, and you convert that to million gallons per day. So if it's 30 gallon a minute pump or whatever, or 10 gallon a minute pump, I don't know, multiply that by 1,440 minutes in a day. That gives you how many gallons per day, and then divide by 1,000,000, and you've got, and what that looks like, just so you know, it's like 10 GPM times 1,440 minutes in a day gives you gallons per day. So that'd be 14,400 gallons per day. And then you divide by 1,000,000 to get mg. D. Okay. So that's just, if you're given that, and be ready for that. Okay. But to just show you how this works, I went right to mg. 0.25 mg with a solids concentration of 8,000. So 0.25 times 8.34 times 8,000 plus 2.5 times 8.34, 2.5, where am I getting that? 2.5 effluent flow rate times 8.34 times 20 milligrams per liter effluent TSS, pretty high. Probably need to look at something here. Probably over wasting based off what I'm seeing. These are going to be in parentheses. Okay. You're going to solve the inside of the parentheses first. So I'm going to bring it down here. Where we got 2 times 8.34 times 3,000. I got a lot of scribbles. I made a lot of adjustments to this math problem yesterday because it didn't make any sense after I'd written it out. 50,040 is what I've got. Is that right? Yep. Pounds in aeration, or pounds in the secondary, sorry, divided by this right here is going to be 16,680. I'm running out of room, so I'm just going to write this underneath the parentheses, pounds in the WAS, okay? 0.25 times 8.34 times 8,000 is 16,680. 2.5 times 8.34 times 20 is 417. Okay, plus. And so you add those two together, I'm going to put that down here, is 17,097 pounds leaving the system, okay, every day, per day. This is where our day ends up, is right here. And when you do that, you should get 2.9 days. It's not too bad. So that's pretty good for conventional activated sludge, 2.9 days. I would think if I'm getting 20 milligrams per liter going over my weirs with this kind of a MCRT, I probably got straggler flock and it's a little young. It's not settling well. But that's just, that's a process control. I don't think you need to know what I just said for the exam. But it's good to know. Let me pop out of here. This is the most complicated math problem we're doing. We got SVI next, but I want to see if I've lost anybody or anybody's got any questions. Thank you for the knowledge. Absolutely, Ryan. Yeah, happy to help you guys out. Okay, let me jump back in here. I'm noticing, oh, I can't believe I forgot to do this. I didn't do a detention time formula. So before we do this SVI, I have a detention time math problem on my channel. I did it again, my goodness. Back to the pen. Detention time equals volume over flow. Go find my video on, I can't conjure up one of detention time formula off the top of my head or a math problem to give you. Just know that you need to be able to do it in days on a pond and hours in a clarifier, okay? And then, so go on my channel and find a detention time formula just because or a math problem, because sorry guys, I just didn't, I did not put one in this. Maybe next time. I'm gonna do more of these, so we'll do one next time. I'll get it in there. And by the way, you need to know detention time for both 1 and 2. That was a pretty big oversight on my part. It's a very simple math problem. It's not hard, just I didn't put it in. Okay, number 58, and the last math problem we're doing. An aeration basin has a 30-minute settlable solids test result at 300 milliliters per liter and an MLSS 2,500 milligrams per liter. What is the sludge volume index in milliliters per gram? Very simple. It's not, some of you were like, whoa, what does that mean? It's actually super simple. I'm gonna show it to you real quick. Actually, that's on my other answer sheet. Let me roll my chair over here and get it. Give me a sec. Roll back over. Okay. So 300 milliliters per liter is in my settleometer. For those of you who are unfamiliar with activated sludge, this is a set solids test. You would take a grab out of actually Matt's, I haven't done one on my channel yet. It's in the queue. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. But Matt, I think, did a sludge settleability test on his channel operator mindset. Go check it out. I haven't watched it, but I'm sure it's fine because he's great. 300 milliliters per liter. This is a volume on volume measurement. You're not weighing anything here. So SVI doesn't work unless you've got a weight of something, and that's going to be your MLSS, which is milligrams per liter, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to convert just over to milliliters per gram. It's actually very simple. So I'm just going to write it out here. Milligrams per liter. Liters cancel out. So what does that mean? That means I divide 300 by 2,500, and that gives me milliliters per milligram. So I need one more conversion, and that is 1,000 milliliters. Is that right? Nope, milligrams. My apologies. Milligrams per gram. Okay, thank you. I'm tired. This is actually kind of more tiring than you'd think, going on for 2 hours. So I'm starting to get a little brain fog. Okay, so it's that's how the units cancel out. 1,000 milligrams per gram. Okay, 300 divided by 2,500 times 1,000, and that should give you an SVI of 120 milliliters per gram. You might see this written a different way on the conversion sheets, and that's going to be SV30 divided by MLSS in milligrams per liter times 1,000. That's how I think they write it on the conversion sheet. But I think it's important to show you how these units actually function because personally, I think people go into these exams, and this happened to me on my 5. I won't talk about other people. I'll talk about myself. The very last question had to do with conversion to surface, standard cubic foot on a blower. And I was like, I have never done this math problem before. I've never done this. And so I had to sit for a while on it. It was actually, I think, the very last question I answered because I was just like, I have no idea. I'm gonna have to come back to it. And I, in the end, had to slow down. I didn't know a formula that I'd memorized, but I did know how to cancel units. I knew what they were asking me for. And I just had to sit there with it for a minute and figure out, okay, how do I convert this to the unit they want? And I eventually did figure it out. And I was able to double check my work now that I cracked the code. That's why I like to show the unit canceling. Sure, this equation's great. It's wonderful. But if you have a brain fart and you get some brain fog, it's really good to be able to pivot to unit canceling. And that's why I did that one math video on canceling out units. So that wraps up this round. Thanks for attending. I have started an email address specifically for this. I've given my personal out a little bit. I've got so much junk in that personal email that it's hard to keep up with stuff. So I've started email address, cawastewatertrainers@gmail.com. It's right. It's right here in the. You can see it there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Not as active on Instagram. I do have an Instagram, but I post there like every couple months. I can't keep up with everything, and LinkedIn's even becoming a little bit much for me these days. So I'm trying to focus mostly on YouTube and the social media aspect. But some other resources I want you to check out. California Wastewater YouTube. If you've not checked it out, he's got a whole grade 1 and grade 2 math series. So if math's where you're struggling, go check it out. He has detention time on there, the one I missed. So go look at that. He's actually going to be interviewed on the channel next week. I'm interviewing him next week. I'm going to I have to edit it and all that stuff. So you'll probably see that late November. Operator Mindset, seems like everybody in the chat already knew Matt, but check him out. Georgia Operations, he's going to help people in Georgia, whereas I'm going to help people in California more, but we can both help people in different states. And Overall Plant Ops, he's got great videos. Roy CEU practice tests, go check those out. He's pretty awesome. Or not he, Roy. I don't know Roy, but they've got pretty awesome practice tests on there. And then Ron Triger on Vimeo. I don't even know if that's how you spell Vimeo. It might be an I actually. But process control, gold. If you want to know about anything, I mean, when I was studying for my grade 4, I used Ron Triger. Like, he was one of my go-to sources. And but he's not on YouTube. He's on Vimeo. I don't know why, but he was really, really great. So that is it, everybody. I'm going to keep my notes in case I need to keep my notes for something. I'm done. We're done here. So thank you for attending. I'm going to, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. I'm going to hang out here for just a couple more seconds. And it only looks like we have 5 viewers on at the moment. So I think with that, I'm going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, everybody. I hope this helped. Thank you for joining. And if you're looking for a grade 3, it'll be early December. If you're looking for grades 4 and 5, it'll be early to mid-January. Once I get it set up, I'll put out posts and shorts just like I did for this one, promoting it. And I'm super excited to see you guys there. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great one.